of the podcast, we talk about a article or some kind of theme that is going on in the 21st century. It's happening now that needs to be talked about. And so for today, we're going to be talking about a stat put out by CBS that there are currently 7.2 million able-bodied, able-minded men who are not in the workforce. Not only that, they're not even attempting to work, right? So when people look at unemployment statistics, that actually presupposes that you are looking for work. So if you're unemployed, it means you are looking for work. These people do not even apply to that statistic because they're not looking. They've given up. They're basically bagging off either the girlfriend or their parents, living in their basement and not contributing whatsoever to society. So, this may be the part where you want me to completely bash on those men if you're a hardworking guy, if you're out there busting your ass every single day. And I can understand where you're coming from. But, there's really two sides to this that I want to discuss. The first is actually empathy, believe it or not. When the world and all the social influences, not social influencers, but social influences, as in the news, as in the internet, as in people who digest those things, when they're all telling you that, any choice you make in life is worthless, that you can't control your own future, that basically your life is completely determined by the circumstances around you. Like people say, don't get married because it's going to fail. There's no, she's going to leave you and take half, or things like you can't get ahead because big corporations are always stealing your money, or you work your ass off just so you can pad the pockets of the big guy, stuff like that you hear all the time from the society in which we live. And it's such a disheartening, bullshit message because it's not true. It's not true. But if you're a man who falls for that, and you believe that you can't make choices that are going to better your own life, then damn, why not just live your life in one giant masturbation cycle in your mother's basement? Why not? What is there to really strive for? What is there to work for? Because everything that I do is going to lead to nothing. Now, I know that's a very dismal outlook on life, but I truly believe that in order to be an able-bodied, able-minded man and not be seeking work, that's the mindset you've got to have. You just have to have completely given up. So those messages that are in our culture, those really piss me off. They really do. Because it's people taking this mentality that the whole world is out to get them and they just can't get ahead. There's nothing they can do. There's always something you can do to make yourself better. There's always something you can do to change the situation that you find yourself in. So, yeah, that's bullshit. That's the way I see it. Nick Eberstadt has a book. He calls it Men Without Work. And he basically studied these 7.2 million men, right? He went in detail talking about, their habits and what they're doing with their time. And one of the interesting things I do want to talk about is that these men spend over 2,000 hours a year on screens. Now, you take that into its totality. You're talking about video games. You're talking about internet time. You're talking about your phone. But 2,000 hours of their lives on screens. For reference, 2,080? Yeah, 2,080 hours a year is a full-time job. You're talking about making money. You're talking about actually trying to take control of your own life, at least financially, if nothing else, at least financially. You're talking about if you just took those 2,000 hours and put them towards a 40-hour-a-week job. And that's without any kind of vacation or anything, and most people, they get whatever it is, like 2 weeks paid vacation, right? That's pretty standard, okay? Or at least 2 weeks vacation, regardless of whether it's paid or not. So Nick Eberstadt came out with that book, and I just think that's fascinating. What have we done to men to make them just completely completely give up, to say there's nothing I could do with my life that's worthwhile, so I'm just going to try and get myself in one giant pleasure loop that just goes around and around, and I'll go until I, off myself. It's super sad. I mean, it's once again, I kind of get it. I have a lot of empathy for these guys, even though, one part of me is empathetic and one is like, get off your ass and go do something. These are the two opposing thoughts that I'm having. But at the same time, when I was super depressed that year out of college, well, I really wasn't trying to become a better person. I kind of stopped. I kind of gave up as well. And I luckily had a support system around me that kind of got me out of that funk. And I also started making choices with my own life to get back on track, to start living by the principles and values that previously I had, claimed to adore. I was like, oh, these things are great. You should go live by them. But I wasn't living by them. I gave up, and I was able to get out of that. But there's 7.2 million men who haven't. That's problematic. Incredibly problematic. Yeah, and I think it's sad because we also have so many avenues through which you can convince yourself you're doing well. I'm a big fan of video games. I enjoy playing Call of Duty, Halo, one of my favorite games ever. And most of these guys, like we were talking about before, with spending 2,000 hours of a year, 2,000 hours of your life a year on screens, it's like you can just kind of imagine why they're doing that. It's because there's an innate thing within men to want to accomplish things. And in video games, there's objectives and there's things you're going to accomplish. And you go grab your posse from, online and you go and do something. And I'm not anti that, but all things in moderation. And you could just see how someone could convince themselves, oh, I need to go do this new thing. I need to get this new suit of armor. I need to go, whatever it is in the game that is the next objective. I need to go accomplish that because that's going to give me fulfillment. And so there's that aspect of things. And then there's men on the other side too, with the screens. It's like, okay, they're spending 2,000 hours of their time on screens. What are they doing? It's like they can convince themselves that pornography is the same thing as a great, healthy relationship with a woman that actually brings you joy and fulfillment. And they convince themselves that they're worthy of all these women online who they're not. I mean, maybe they are because both people are really messed up in the situation, but they can convince themselves that, women are trash. I don't want to be around women. They're terrible. And that's a terrible message in and of itself. That's a whole nother episode coming along down the pike, I promise. But yeah, I think that's another thing. It's like men are going to try and at least convince themselves that they are accomplishing something. And so you've got all these different avenues. You could spend all your money on a credit card to saying, oh, I'm really rich. I can go, throw money here, throw money there. When in fact, you're spending a giant company's money and you still owe it to them, right? So there's all these different things that I think these men, you talk about the screen, you talk about the lifestyle they're leading. It's very dismal. It's very dismal. So anyways, I thought that was really interesting. And then on the other side, yeah, I'm pissed. Fair enough. Empathy is a good thing to have, and I do have it towards these men. I understand it. I understand that you've got a rough society around you. On the other hand, the whole point of this freaking podcast is that you get to make choices, right? And those choices define your future. They make you into the man that you are, okay? You can look back at your life and just see time and time again the choices you have made have led you to become the man you are today. That's either going to be a man you're proud of or a man that lacks all self-confidence and is just shying away from all the good that's in the world because it might involve conflict, It creates weak men, and I'm not a fan of that. This whole mindset of basically giving yourself to pleasure without any end goal. Not a fan of that. And also, 7.2 million men in the economy would be a really good thing. Can you imagine how much better off we would be? I mean, there's just logistical side to this as well, but it makes me sad, but it makes me mad too. And it also makes me I'm more pissed at the messages that are coming at these men than the men themselves. The men are reacting, and it's not good, and you need to get off your ass and go do something and make something out of yourself. That's very true. But also, the messages are there. I'm not going to try and pretend like they're not. There are so many different messages telling men that you can't really achieve anything, and you're kind of stuck under the hand of your boss, or the hand of your oppressive woman, or the hand of this or that. It's not giving men the tools they need to actually go and attack and embrace the conflict that life brings, the conflict that will actually lead you to happiness. But anyways, I digress. That was the article that I wanted to talk about concerning manliness in the 21st century. I hope you enjoyed it.